Silence did not fall when Queen Vera entered the Starborn court. Silence arrived before her. It moved across the chamber like an invisible tide. Conversations stopped mid-word. Data screens dimmed. The floating light symbols near the ceiling froze in place as if afraid to drift without permission. One by one, the courtiers stood. Armor plates aligned. Robes straightened. Heads bowed at the exact same angle. The movement was perfect. Practiced. Automatic. Only one person did not stand. Cassian Drake remained seated at the center table beneath a slow orbit of glowing star maps. He leaned back slightly in his chair, studying a rotating hologram projected from his wrist console. His expression showed deep concentration. Behind him, someone whispered sharply, "Stand." Another voice hissed his name. Cassian did not move. He adjusted the image of a trinary star system and sighed. "No wonder their ships get lost," he muttered softly. "These stars shift like they're bored." The great doors opened fully. Queen Vera entered. Her skin shimmered blue like polished sapphire. Pale blonde hair flowed down her back in long braids woven with thin silver filaments that pulsed softly with energy. Her long ears angled slightly backward in focus. She stopped when she saw him. "Everyone stands before me," she said calmly. "Why don't you, human?" Cassian looked up slowly, as if confirming that she was truly speaking to him. He smiled. Not in defiance. Not in mockery. Just calmly. "I was under the impression," he said politely, glancing at his chair, "that sitting was still legal under Starborn law. If not, I would like to file a complaint against this chair for poor design." A soft ripple of shock moved through the court. No one joked in front of the queen. No one. Vera studied him carefully. "You are the human ambassador," she said. "Unfortunately, yes," Cassian replied. "I tried to get promoted to something more dramatic." A few officials looked ready to faint. Vera stepped closer. Cassian stood then, not quickly, not nervously, simply because it now made sense to stand for conversation. Their eyes met at nearly the same level. That unsettled her more than his humor. "You do not fear me," she observed. Cassian considered the question honestly. "I do," he said. "Just not in a useful way." There was something in his tone, not arrogance, not challenge. Just truth. Vera turned toward the court. "Leave us." Gasps filled the chamber. But the court obeyed immediately. The doors sealed shut. Silence returned. Only the two of them remained beneath the orbiting star maps. Cassian looked around. "You know," he said casually, "on Earth this counts as progress for a first meeting." "You treat my court like a discussion hall," Vera replied. "I find discussions more productive than ceremonies," Cassian said. "Less kneeling. Better circulation." Her long ears shifted slightly forward. "You speak as if power does not require distance." "In my experience," Cassian said gently, "distance usually means nobody tells you when your star charts are wrong." That caught her attention. "My charts are not wrong." He rotated the hologram between them. "They assume stable stellar behavior. This system does not behave." "Stars do not behave," she said coldly. "They follow physics." "So do humans," Cassian replied. "That never stopped us from making bad choices." A pause. Then, unexpectedly, Queen Vera laughed. Softly. The sound echoed faintly in the empty hall. And for the first time in centuries, someone did not bow in her presence. The whispering court. 3 cycles later, the Starborn court began whispering. Cassian noticed it before anyone told him. Doors closed too quickly when he walked past. Officials stopped speaking when he entered rooms. Chairs were moved slightly farther away from him during meetings. One council member replaced his seat entirely while he was still sitting in it. Cassian blinked at the new chair. "It's very nice," he said. "But I was attached to the previous one emotionally." The council member left without answering. Later that day, Cassian received a formal summons to the High Council chamber. This one was not phrased as a suggestion. When he entered, the air felt heavier. Gravity seemed slightly stronger. The elders stood in a semicircle around Queen Vera. She did not look at Cassian immediately. The human violates protocol, one elder said sharply. He sits without invitation. He interrupts. He speaks as if rank is optional. In my defense, Cassian said mildly, I interrupt everyone equally. The chamber hissed in outrage. You encourage this behavior, another elder said to Vera. You allow familiarity. Vera's voice was calm. I allow conversation. A queen does not need conversation, the elder snapped. She needs obedience. Cassian leaned slightly toward Vera. That's usually where empires go wrong, he whispered. She shot him a warning glance. Terrible timing. The council erupted in arguments. Words like contamination, weakness, and corruption echoed across the chamber. Cassian remained quiet. Finally, Vera raised her hand. Silence fell instantly. You fear change, she said evenly. We fear what he teaches, an elder replied. That you are not untouchable. Cassian winced slightly. That sounds worse when you say it out loud. Vera turned toward him. You could leave, she said softly. Return to your ship. This conflict would fade. Cassian met her gaze. And let them believe you needed protection from a conversation. The room felt tight. Charged. I remained seated, he continued calmly, because standing would have placed distance between us. Someone should remain close enough to tell you when the room is lying. The council froze. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Vera stepped down from the elevated throne platform. Ancient systems flickered in confusion. The chamber lights dimmed briefly. She stood on the same level as Cassian. I will not be worshipped into isolation, she declared. The elders stared in shock. You will adapt, she continued. Or you will step aside. When the chamber finally emptied, only Vera and Cassian remained. They will not forgive this easily, she said quietly. Nobody likes it when the furniture starts talking back, Cassian replied. Her long ears slowly relaxed. You risk much for honesty. You risk more pretending you don't want it, he said gently. The observatory. By the 7th cycle, their meetings were no longer accidents. The orbital observatory stretched around them like an artificial night sky. Stabilized stars glowed in controlled fields beyond the transparent walls. Cassian stood at the railing, watching a red dwarf pulse faintly. You are staring, Vera said as she approached. I'm admiring, he corrected. It looks calm, but I don't trust it. It will not explode. That's what the last one told us. She stood beside him. Not touching, but closer than before. You disrupt my routines, she said. I've been accused of worse crimes. You disrupt my thoughts, she continued. He smiled softly. Most rulers anticipate rebellion. I'm honored you anticipate conversation. A long silence followed. Do you know how many beings have stood before me and spoken words they did not mean? She asked. Enough to make chairs unpopular, Cassian replied. She almost smiled. When I was newly crowned, she said quietly, I believed reverence meant loyalty. Later, I learned it meant fear. Fear is fashionable across the galaxy, Cassian said. You are not afraid of me. I am, he said honestly. I just don't let it drive. That answer stayed between them. Power is isolating, Vera said. The higher one stands, the thinner the air. Cassian leaned against the railing. On Earth, we pretend no one stands higher than anyone else. It doesn't work perfectly, but it helps us breathe. She studied him. If I step down from elevation, even briefly, the court will panic. If you never do, he replied, they'll never know you chose it. She turned sharply. I'm not human. No, he agreed. But you're close enough to understand the joke. Her long ears twitched. And for a moment, she looked less like a queen and more like a woman who had carried too much weight for too long. Walk with me, she said. They walked beneath artificial stars, discussing unstable suns and unstable traditions. No guards followed. The fracture. The change did not come with alarms. It came with a notice. Protocol revision. Voluntary standing. No penalties. Respect redefined. The announcement spread through the court like controlled fire. Some courtiers stood automatically when Vera entered, then awkwardly sat down again. Others remained frozen, unsure how to behave without instructions. Cassian chose a chair in the center of the atrium and sat calmly. Queen Vera entered without ceremony. No gravity shift. No forced silence. She walked to the center. And she Saturday. The court watched, waiting for reality to correct itself. It did not. I have ruled from elevation, Vera said clearly. I believed distance preserved authority. I was wrong. The room did not collapse. The stars outside continued to burn. I will not command reverence, she continued. I will earn respect. An elder hesitated. Then slowly Saturday. A quiet wave of relief passed through the chamber. Afterward, when the hall emptied, Vera stood beside Cassian at the observation window. You have altered the trajectory of this court, she said. You did that, Cassian replied. I just refused to help it pretend. She looked at him carefully. I believed strength meant never being questioned. And now? Now I know it means surviving the question. He smiled. You laughed more this cycle. I have not laughed freely since before my coronation, she admitted. That's tragic, he said seriously. You have excellent timing. She shook her head, amused. You are returning to your ship temporarily. Human politics requires proof I'm still alive. A comfortable silence settled between them. You remained seated, she said quietly. And by doing so, you taught me where to stand. Cassian looked at her, truly looked. Not at a queen. At a leader choosing courage over tradition. Anytime, he said gently. Outside the observatory window, the red dwarf star flared brightly, then stabilized. For the first time in centuries, the starborn throne did not feel distant. It felt human enough to change. And somewhere deep within the ancient structure of the court, tradition shifted. Not broken, but no longer unquestioned. The human had not conquered the empire. He had not commanded armies. He had not raised weapons. He had simply refused to kneel. And in doing so, he changed a civilization. The message arrived 3 days after Cassian returned to his ship. It did not begin with greeting. It began with warning. Emergency stellar instability detected. System, Velaran trinary. Probability of collapse, rising. Cassian stared at the screen in silence. Velaran. The same star system he had argued about in Queen Vera's court. The one their ancient predictive system claimed was stable. He exhaled slowly. Well, he muttered, this is going to be awkward. The flare. Inside the starborn capital, the alarms did not scream. They pulsed. Deep. Low. Controlled. Queen Vera stood in the Hall of Continuum as red light moved across the floating star projections. Advisors surrounded her, their long ears stiff with tension. The predictive intelligence confirms rising instability, one elder said. That is impossible, another insisted. The system has held steady for 8,000 cycles. Vera did not look away from the holographic display. The red dwarf star pulsed harder. Its orbit shifted slightly. Then again. Not random. Erratic. Evacuation estimates. Vera asked calmly. 18 million citizens across 3 worlds, an aide replied. Time uncertain. The chamber felt smaller. He warned us, Vera said quietly. The elders fell silent. She turned sharply. Open channel to the human ambassador. Cassian's ship appeared above the capital within hours. He did not wait for ceremony. He walked directly into the Hall of Continuum, still wearing a simple human uniform instead of formal diplomatic attire. Please tell me this is a drill, he said. It is not, Vera replied. The red projections filled the air between them. The star pulsed again, brighter this time. Cassian stepped closer to the data field. Your model still assumes synchronized gravitational harmony, he said quickly. But trinary systems don't behave politely. When one shifts, the others overreact. Our evacuation ships are prepared, an elder said stiffly. That won't be enough, Cassian replied. If the red dwarf destabilizes fully, it could trigger a cascade reaction. The chamber quieted. A cascade? Vera asked. All three stars interacting violently. Gravitational waves. Radiation storms. Possibly supernova-level output. The silence felt heavy now. Probability? She asked. Cassian looked at the data again. Rising. The choice. Within hours, starborn fleets moved toward Velaran. Massive transport vessels prepared to evacuate citizens. But the distance was vast. Even at advanced speeds, time was limited. In the strategy chamber, arguments erupted. We must preserve the capital, one elder insisted. If the system collapses, shockwaves could reach us. We cannot abandon 18 million, another countered. The throne must survive. Vera stood quietly as they argued. Then she spoke. The throne is not a building. The chamber went still. It is our people. She turned to Cassian. What does your species do when faced with impossible odds? Cassian paused. We panic first, he admitted. Then we build something reckless. A faint smile touched her lips. Build it. The human plan. Cassian requested access to starborn engineering cores. He requested control over orbital stabilization arrays. He requested permission to override ancient safety limits. The elders protested loudly. You would risk damaging sacred systems. They were built to prevent catastrophe. They were built 8,000 cycles ago, Cassian replied sharply. Stars don't care about tradition. Vera lifted her hand. Grant him access. The chamber reacted with visible discomfort. Cassian wasted no time. He gathered starborn engineers and human specialists aboard a joint command vessel. A massive holographic model of the trinary system rotated above them. We cannot stop the stars, Cassian said clearly. But we can redirect the energy. Redirect? An engineer asked. Yes. Your stabilization arrays were designed to manage minor flares. We amplify them, combine them, create a gravitational counterpulse. That could tear the arrays apart. Yes, Cassian agreed. The room fell silent. And if we do nothing, he continued, 18 million die. No one argued after that. The court watches. Back on the capital world, Queen Vera stood before the court. Live feeds from Velaran streamed above them. Evacuation ships lifted from planetary surfaces. The red dwarf flared violently, radiation waves expanding outward. One elder stepped forward. If this fails, history will blame you. Vera did not look at him. If it fails, she said quietly, history will not exist to blame anyone. Her long ears remained steady. She would not show fear. Not now. Inside the fire. Cassian stood on the command deck as warning lights flashed around him. The joint fleet had positioned stabilization satellites around the unstable star. Human ships moved between starborn vessels with precise coordination. Energy levels rising, an operator shouted. Array integrity at 70%. Evacuation at 82% complete. Cassian gripped the railing. Prepare counterpulse. An engineer hesitated. If timing is off by even half a second. It won't be, Cassian said firmly. The red dwarf swelled larger on the main screen. Solar flares erupted outward like claws. Now! Cassian ordered. The stabilization arrays activated simultaneously. A wave of controlled gravitational force pulsed outward. For a moment, everything froze. The stars shimmered. The radiation wave bent slightly, then violently surged back. The ship shook. Array damage, someone shouted. Secondary star destabilizing. Cassian's mind raced. Redirect power from transport vessels, he ordered. That leaves evacuation ships vulnerable. They're already clear, he snapped. Do it. Energy flowed into the arrays. The gravitational counterpulse intensified. On the main display, the red dwarf's expansion slowed. Not stopped, but slowed. Hold it, Cassian whispered. Sweat ran down his forehead. Hold. The secondary star's orbit stabilized slightly. Then the third star aligned. The cascade reaction began to lose strength. The red dwarf's flare peaked. Then began to shrink. Silence filled the command deck. Slowly, readings shifted from critical to unstable, to strained, to stabilizing. We did it, an operator breathed. Cassian leaned heavily against the console. Status. Cascade reaction prevented. System unstable but contained. He exhaled. Tell the Queen, her stars are stubborn. Aftermath. Back in the Starbourne court, the feed shifted from red to gold. The unstable system glowed but did not explode. Evacuation ships returned safely. 18 million lives saved. The chamber was silent. Then. Not because protocol demanded it. But because they chose to. The court stood. Queen Vera remained seated for a moment. Then she rose slowly. Not elevated above them. But among them. The human ambassador warned us, she said clearly. He challenged our certainty. She paused. He was correct. An elder stepped forward carefully. We misjudged him. Yes, Vera said simply. The return. When Cassian returned to the capital, there was no grand parade. No enforced ceremony. He walked into the atrium quietly. Courtiers watched him differently now. Not with suspicion. With respect. One elder approached. You remained seated, the elder said slowly. And now you have helped us stand. Cassian blinked. That's surprisingly poetic. The elder almost smiled. Queen Vera entered moments later. This time, some stood. Some remained seated. No one was forced. She walked directly to Cassian. You risked your life for our people, she said. I dislike losing arguments, he replied lightly. It ruins my credibility. Her long ears angled forward warmly. You have proven something to this court. Oh. That humanity's strength is not in domination. Cassian tilted his head. Then what is it? She met his eyes. Refusal to accept that disaster is inevitable. He smiled. Yeah. We're annoyingly hopeful. A new equation. Later that evening, they stood again in the observatory. The once unstable red dwarf now pulsed gently in the distance. You challenged 8,000 cycles of certainty, Vera said. Stars don't respect seniority, Cassian replied. You could have left. I considered it, he admitted. But then who would correct your charts? She laughed softly. The sound felt freer now. The court will never view humanity the same way, she said. Good or bad? Both, she answered honestly. You are unpredictable. We prefer adaptable. She studied him. You refused to kneel. You refused to leave. And today, you refused to surrender to the stars. Cassian looked out at the glowing system. On Earth, he said quietly, we learned early that the universe doesn't negotiate. So we build, and rebuild, and sometimes rebuild again. She stepped closer beside him. Then perhaps, she said softly, the Starborn have much to learn. Careful, he said lightly. We also invent reality shows. She shook her head, amused. For a moment, they simply stood in comfortable silence. Not queen and ambassador. Not ruler and outsider. Two beings who had faced the same fire. And survived. The shift. Across the Starborn Empire, something subtle changed. Not just protocol. Perspective. Humans were no longer viewed as reckless newcomers. They were seen as resilient. Dangerous in their optimism. Powerful in their refusal to accept fate. In quiet chambers, elders rewrote long-standing doctrines. In engineering bays, Starborn technicians studied human improvisation models. In political halls, discussions replaced decrees. And in the highest observatory of the capital, Queen Vera looked at the stars differently. She no longer saw symbols of absolute control. She saw variables. And possibility. Final moment. As Cassian prepared to return to his ship once more, Vera stopped him near the docking platform. The galaxy is watching us now, she said. That sounds stressful, he replied. It is. A pause. You changed more than our protocols, she continued. You changed how we measure strength. Cassian shrugged gently. Strength isn't about standing above everyone. She nodded. It is about standing when everything else falls. He smiled. Exactly. The docking lights glowed softly. Will you return? She asked. Cassian hesitated only slightly. Your stars are still unpredictable. Her long ears lifted slightly. Then we will need a human nearby. He stepped toward the shuttle. And I suppose, he said lightly, someone needs to make sure you keep sitting occasionally. She laughed openly. And this time, the stars seemed to echo it.